be honest with you, Seth, I really respect you. You're a great man of God. You have a passion about you. That thing you said at the very, very beginning about how you're a man of like deep contrast lines of conviction. The only thing more rare than that in our society, in my opinion, even among Christian men, is courage. And I just so admire courage. You know, courage of any kind is the rarest of human commodities in the generation that I grew up in. I mean, even talented people, even powerful people, they will compromise everything to not be alienated and excommunicated from the group. And here's my question for you. We're fathers, so our actions don't just affect us anymore. You know, when I was a young 20-year-old gunslinger, you know, I could kind of pop off the mouth at will, and Jesus convicted me about a lot of that. But I was pretty fearless, and I did think the Lord used that boldness a lot. Where's the line between that kind of behavior being what the kingdom of God needs and this time needs, and what is going to hurt our family? And how do you navigate that? The reason I'm asking you that is you're uniquely sharing that space with me a lot, where that conviction, and it was no less for convicted men of God in the past. I mean, look at the founders.
Yeah.
King George was not playing around.
Yeah.
So when they signed their name on that thing, it's a headhunt at that point, right? The disciples. Peter had a family. I mean, these people had high stakes poker. So I'm not giving myself a get out of jail free card here just because I got a family. But I'm also not going to lie and say, I never think like that. And it's just, how do you navigate that? Take it case by case.
Hopefully I don't embarrass myself with saying this, but you kind of threw me a softball. Is you said, these men of courage, like we see like these courageous behaviors. And I have yet to see when someone is interviewed on their courage, that endeavor that you did. It's so courageous that you stepped out and you said this. It's so tell me the person who showed that courage that wasn't scared out of their mind. If they tell me that they weren't scared, like you said, you're lying. You're a human. If you're not scared, then there's probably something else we have to unpack too.
Yeah, you might be a psychopath.
Right. But
it's true.
And the same thing with parenting here. When you look like you're full of courage and you're really scared, you're operating on the determination. You're scared out of your mind, but you see what has to be done. That's where you see your courage come out. I am scared out of my mind.
But you can clearly see it.
But there's something that has to be done. I mean, founding fathers, it's romanticize them. I love the founding fathers.
I do too. I deeply admire them.
Good and bad, I've picked them apart from child to their death.
Yeah. They were anointed men, and I believe that, and I say that boldly. There's no doubt in my mind they were.
And I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole, but you hold the founding fathers on this pedestal, and they have all these things that they did wrong. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, they got pockmarks for sure.
Yeah, I'm not going to
Yeah.
They were put in a position at a certain time to hit a mark.
100%. Change the world. Yeah.
But they didn't know they were changing the world.
No.
They had two options. I can either keep my mouth shut, or I'm going to be courageous. And you could say, well, there's some that are just seeking power, and probably so. Maybe they're not going to say it out
probably
loud.
in the cocktail of reasons.
Yeah. But the 10% that actually went toe-to-toe with the British, scared out of their mind, stood in a line. And I am challenged with this myself personally all the time. And I'm sure we'll get to it. This is a principle that I'm standing on.
Let's just say it like this: you're going through something like this right now, which is why it's so potent. But we're not going to elaborate on it. I just want to let people know why we're not. Okay, yeah.
That's a good way to put it. I'm guilty of this too when I try to be courageous about the position I'm taking. But what we do right now when we say we're going to be courageous and I'm going to take a stand is that we start covering every single base too. I'm super courageous, but I'm also gonna make sure
we hedge our bets.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Hedge your bets. And it's a challenge for me because if you're hedging your bets, then you're not all in. So make it, and this is where I struggle. Make a determination.
And that's why I asked you the question though, Seth, because it's so much harder with a family. Now, why I could put that, it's not like those men that we admire didn't have families. So that doesn't give me the get out of jail free card. But I'm just saying, I struggle with that. I struggle with the selfishness in it. What's the right kind of all in? What's the wrong? Does that exist? Does that nuance exist? Are you afforded that kind of piecemeal courage? Like, I guess I guess what I'm asking you is, you're one of the only men I know that I really believe has put a lot on the line and done some stuff like this. I just want to know, like, how do you do the cost ratio analysis? Like, or do you? That's a better question. You're kind of alluding to the fact that you can't, by some of the stuff you're saying, that cost ratio analysis is not really afforded you if you're going to go for it.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But so much so that some people would say that it's irresponsible. But I can't look at that, because all that's doing is I'm creating safety nets.
Yeah.
Then those safety nets, they build and they grow, and it just becomes an easy branch to sit on. We sit on a branch in God's tree, and we're comfortable. And we don't want to move. Like, it is good. And maybe it's a safer bet to sit here on this branch. But then I feel like it comes to a point where God cuts the branch, and you're like, wait a second, what'd you just do?
Yeah.
We were saved.
Yeah.
You cut the branch. What are you doing?
Yeah. That's right.
God says, you're not going to climb unless I cut the branch. And this is what I was like, well, wait a second. Like, what do you mean climb? Like, what are you trying to say here? It's true. You're not going to grow unless you're uncomfortable. So what I struggle with what 100% you're saying,
true.
Like, how like, there's financial gains, there's financial losses in this, specifically like decisions that I'm making. And you're right. They're huge. But as a parent also, and as a Christian for my kids to learn from, as a father and a Christian, when I have to do the cost analysis, the weighing of it, I hope that someday my children observe and kind of digest and reflect on what me and their mother have gone through, and the decisions we have. But my oldest son, I'll say to him sometimes at night, especially with things that are going on in the world, this has happened. So just remember this. And I won't go into details.
I'm inspired by that, Seth, because I don't know that I do that. I think thus far I've taken more of I'll bear it. They don't need to know it. But the thing that you've impacted me by saying that is, but they need to know it, because the conviction and the courage is a seed you're planting in their humanity and in their personhood. And they'll very likely need that in the world they're going to inherit.
And that's what I'm saying. This is, and you know where I sit right now, without getting into details, like this is my battle, me and my wife's battle, because we're together with it. This is the battle that I'm sitting in, the war that is of our time. What I want to articulate to my sons as a parent, scared out of my mind, courageous in their eyes and courageous in other people's eyes, is remember this moment when you're up against
Goliath.
Many times the enemy and things in our lives resemble giants, is what I said. They resemble giants. And the enemy presents itself as a giant. And I don't want them going through their lives thinking that it's okay to believe what they believe in, their conviction and their ethics and morals, to a point until they see the giant, and then it's okay to say, okay, I'll wait here. I'm safe on this branch. And this is where I think there are times that God puts us on a branch that's cut because it's time to grow. I don't know why you cut my branch. I was fine. We were good. Yeah. But you know what? What I've learned and where I've grown even in the last 6 months, and just, and Samantha, Samantha's my wife, but she's so much smarter than I am. And I always refer to her as when John Adams had his wife.
Yeah.
Like, no one really knows that. You think he was a smart man.
Abigail's on another level.
Was the anchor to him, not going off the deep end.
And also like truly a world-class IQ.
Yeah.
Like the woman had like an off-the-scale IQ. You know, I mean, I read her. She's really like a world-class mind.
Yeah.
That's powerful, Seth, what you said. And I think to myself that especially the part you said about you have these convictions, you were raised a certain way, you believe a certain way, But what we've discovered in the last 2 years, at least for me, and I'm sure I've discovered it in smaller doses earlier than that, but that stuff really didn't mean a whole lot to a lot of people. Because if anything was on the line, any kind of like slight comfort was on the line. And we watched, I mean, let's just be honest with ourselves. You and I watched good friends of ours, people that we love and admire and care and think are funny and all that stuff, dispose of their values and dispose of their convictions in a shockingly cheap, discounted way. And that thing about not raising this next generation to do that, because that won't do in this new world. Like you and I were raised Gen X, and quite frankly, this was like a semi-charmed kind of life we were raised in. I mean, you got to be a fool not to see that the sands are shifting on this beach.
Yeah.
And they are likely to face challenges that we will not face. And courage will certainly be an arrow they must have in their quiver to survive it. Because we're fathers doesn't mean we get to phone in the courage just because, you know what I mean?
It's
just
safe, yeah.
Because it's safe. But I'll tell you, that is a workable excuse in our society.
Well,
so in other words, if you want to be a compromising man, you can just say, I got kids. I got a wife.
Yeah.
And that holds water. I mean, like with 9 out of 10 people, that holds water.
Nothing wrong with that. And
Right.
that's why I don't get mad or upset with, I get mad and upset with some people's decisions, but you make a decision that's for your family.
That's your
That's
decision.
your decision.
You know the nuance of that.
Because if everyone walked around, because at some point someone's going to hit their safety wall. That is too much for me, and this is my line in the sand.
Yes.
And that's fine.
Because we don't know the details.
Right.
Right.
And if we didn't have that, and I'm not saying that this is who I am, but the world can't walk around with 6 billion George Washingtons. And don't get me wrong, I'm not an important person. I don't think that I am this big important person that needs to carry this cross or wave the flag and this banner and I'm going to change the world. And I'm not trying to pretend to be that, but
you're doing something important.
I'm doing something important.
I know you know that.
And it may not be me, but if my son or his son keeps compounding on itself of what I've learned and what I went through and how I did it, it may not be me, but we're all equipped to stand eye to eye with the giant.